seen my fair share of wonderful names so far in this tournament. Also, I will be solo commentating today, or tonight, this morning, whatever it may be, and it would appear as if we are ready and set to get underway. So since I believe there's probably going to be quite a few people here who are not, 110% educated on Celeste any percent, Celeste is a precision platformer with built-in speed mechanics that are absolutely crazy, and that we abuse to go very, very fast in this game. One of which is very, very subtle, but you're going to see it here in the prologue. Sneaky and Acaroline both bunny hopping throughout the entire prologue, basically just giving them a small speed boost in the air. Since we don't have our dash yet until the end of until the end of the prologue, we just jump, do some bunny hops. Also, I must say this sync is wonderful. So this is Forsaken City. Forsaken City is the first chapter of 8 technically in Celeste, but of 7 in the any percent speedrun. Now you're going to be noticing quite a bit of tech here already. You're going to be seeing some hyper dashes, which are basically Madeline dashing down into the ground. Madeline dashing, down into the ground and holding a direction as well. Basically lowering the arc of her jump, but in turn giving her more speed. You're going to see these wall bounces as well, where we keep our momentum. These wall bounces are crucial in some parts of the game for sure, and definitely in the speed tech. So yeah, these little zippers move on those set conveyors. They're basically the main mechanic of this chapter entirely. And I'll see if Acaroline goes for, yep. You're going to see some neutral wall kicks here. Basically, that's her kicking off of the wall without losing or using up any stamina, which can be helpful in a pinch or for strats like that. And the runner's PBs are about 4 or 5 minutes apart, to answer that question. So unfortunately, we are going to lose our sync for the in-game timers, but that's not that big of a deal. You'll still be able to determine basically what's going on here and how far ahead one runner is from the other. So Caroline now starting off Chapter 2, which is Old Site. You're going to see right away a cool little strategy right there that's used. It's more of a bug than anything. This cutscene is skipped, and the cutscene basically places you on a set x-axis, but completely ignores the y-axis. So in turn, that spawns our runners inside of that dream block. These dream blocks are one-directional dash through. You can dash through in any of the 8 directions, however, you'll be continuing that dash direction through the entire block. And if you do come in contact with a wall while you're dashing through inside of one of those, you will die, unfortunately. So now, Caroline entering the Battle-In chase here. Battle-In is basically I would consider her the main antagonist of the game. We see her quite a few times. We don't see her that much actually throughout the run, but you see her a lot if you're playing the game casually, for sure. This is one of the more significant parts that Battle-In takes care in. Oh, unfortunate death there for my Caroline. Giving Sneaky maybe a bit of lenience, a bit of time to catch up here. Basically in this section, the chase, she follows you on a 3-second delay, and basically, on a 3 or 4 second delay, and basically mimics your movements, and our runners usually blow through these rooms very, very quickly, so it's not that much of a problem for them at all. Sneaky also taking an unfortunate death. This last room of Chapter 2, this last room of the Battle-In chase is very, very long. It can be very punishing to take a death later on. Also very interesting to see the amount of different strats that are used across the entire tournament in that room. So acaroline now entering the awake section. Basically, it's just some precise movement. There's no danger here. Nothing can actually kill you unless you accidentally retry instead of skip the cutscene at the end. So acaroline making it out. 2:14, not a bad time whatsoever. So, acaroline now entering the chapter where all runs go to die, the Celestial Resort. Basically, the kicker here, you can see them right here on the screen right now. These little dust creatures, or dust bunnies, move on set cycles. That's the name of the game of the chapter. Completely cycle-based, which makes for a lot of different strats and a lot of creativity between runners. So you probably will notice that they're going to be doing different rooms completely differently. SNeaky S now entering Celestial Resort as well. Another thing about Resort is that there is 2 set cycles for each of the rooms. One for if you take a death, and one for if you enter the room right away. A lot of the runners don't have backup strats if they do take deaths in some of these rooms, especially some of the longer ones. So a death can be very, very costly in a long room. And we have about a 20-second lead right now for acaroline overall. These keys follow you around just like the strawberries in this game do. However, we won't be picking up very many strawberries, if any at all, in this run. Except the difference between them and the strawberries is that the keys don't actually disappear or go back to their spawn location. Whenever you die, they still stay attached to you, and you're going to see that be exploited here later on in the chapter. Also, you're going to notice there's a huge mess here, fittingly the name of the segment. There was a key in the middle of all that mess in that last room, and basically that's our job in this segment, is to clean all that up, get the key so we can progress. There are 3 segments of the huge mess split. One being at the top of the big room, the middle of the big room, and the bottom of the big room. Now, the most optimal path to take is the bottom, the top, and then the middle because of Oshiro's position. Whenever we exit, as you can see, he's right there when acaroline exits the first segment. Very, very fun section. Very, very fun chapter to watch in terms of speedrunning in general, especially in a race, because you see how many different strats people use between these rooms. So acaroline slamming down on that second button, now going to be moving into the last segment, the middle segment. And yeah, chapter 3 is very, very entertaining. Had a little bit of a remix there on acaroline's side with the the lag of the music. So Sneaky finishing up that second segment as acaroline is about ready to finish that third segment. Acaroline having a pretty good chapter 3 so far, I must say. So, gonna go grab the key now and head up into the elevator shaft segment. Now, the elevator shaft segment can be a bit punishing as well. There are some very long rooms in the middle of this segment that can definitely be punishing if you take a death towards the end of them. Sneaky finishing up that third section now as well. So the lead isn't as big as you might think. There are just 1 or 2 really costly deaths could completely change the entire structure of the race. So here's the strat I was talking about coming up in the next room. acaroline, we're gonna see if do it. Yep. So chain 4 hypers together there on those pressure platforms. Basically, completely skip doing the room what I would consider the intended way. You grab the key and you actually retry as soon as you get the key, because the key follows you when you die, and it spawns you at the very start of the room, saves you dashing all the way back across. It's about a 5, 6, 7 second time save. Very good stuff. So now entering the Oshiro boss fight. Oshiro follows you on a horizontal plane and attacks on a horizontal plane. The little lightning bolt that shoots across the screen indicates where he's exactly going to be shooting across the screen at. He can be bonked, as in, you can jump off the top of his head, and if you do bounce off the top of his head, not only does it stop his path across, but you also get your dash back if you're missing it. So this chase can be a bit stressful. There are a few rooms... Ooh, good save there from acaroline. There can be a few rooms that are definitely interesting on a death cycle. This room, specifically, is arguably one of the hardest rooms in the entire chapter. Oh, acaroline taking a death, though. Not that late on, so it's not that big of a problem. Should be able to recover from it pretty easily. This room is very, very long. The last room of the Oshiro chasing can be very, very punishing as well to take a death in. And, entry strats can be different than death strats, but a 534 is a very, very good Chapter 6 time for acaroline. Very well done. I do believe that was only 2 or 3 deaths, wasn't it? Yeah, that was... Oh, sorry! That was the single death that you saw in the last room of the Oshiro chase there was actually the only unintended death of that chapter for acaroline. Very impressive stuff. So acaroline now jetting through Chapter 4. Chapter 4 introduces a few new mechanics. We're going to see if Sneaky can make it through this room without taking a death towards the end as well. Yes. And that's another... is that a 534 as well? I cannot really tell. It's hard for me to tell. It kind of looked like a 540-something, though. Hard for me to tell on this stream, however. But still a good time for Sneaky. Here you're going to see... the main mechanic of Chapter 4, which is the wind. And the wind can be abused as well in momentum terms to, you know, just go flying across some of these screens. These clouds basically act as trampolines. The lower they go, the higher you bounce. And these blue balls, these blue or green balls, whichever color you decide to deem them as, people call them turquoise, green, doesn't really matter. They basically shoot you the same distance as a dash would. However, whenever you come out of them, you have an extra dash. Or you keep your dash. They're activated faster by pressing the dash button. These moving platforms as well can be abused momentum-wise. They move in one set direction unless there's a switch on them that you can change the direction for. The switches can appear on any of the 4 sides, and you saw acaroline readjust that block to basically skip that auto-scroller room almost entirely. Jumping all across a large gap here. acaroline taking a couple deaths, giving Sneaky a little bit of time to catch up. Also, something I failed to mention, you're going to see on Sneaky's screen right now. If we're facing away from spikes in this run, it's actually a property that the spikes have, that you just don't die, and the spikes cannot hurt you if you're facing the same direction they are. So Sneaky and acaroline both at that section and at a section in Chapter 3 actually use that to their advantage, and we're able to jump off the corner of the wall by facing away from the spikes. So Sneaky getting that auto-scroll skip as well, entering the windy section, the old trail section. Unfortunately going to take a death in that room. This room is an auto-scroller as well that acaroline's in, but it's pretty much unskippable. You kind of just have to wait for the block to make its way across. So acaroline is about to enter the heavy wind section, which is arguably, I think we would deem it probably the hardest section of Chapter 4 entirely. And this is also where bit rates come to die. Here we're introduced to another little mechanic called the snowballs. I mean, they're not called the snowballs. They look like snowballs. They are snowballs. As you can see on a acaroline screen, they can be a bit pestering at times, especially if you do screw up one of your strats and they end up on a different cycle than you're used to. They move across on a horizontal plane similar to Oshiro. However, they approach from the right side of the screen instead of the left. So if you're close to the end of the room, it can be an issue to readjust if you're caught off guard by them. Again, and if you're too slow in a certain room for a certain strat that you use, they can really screw you over. Acaroline in the last room now. This room, not too difficult if you know what you're doing. Makes it through without issue. And finishes off Chapter 4, sorry. I was going to say 3. Chapter 4 in pretty good time. And Sneaky is about to make his way into the Heavy Wind section. So, coming up now is what I would probably deem the most technical chapter in the speedrun, besides, of course, the summit, which combines everything. We'll see that at the end of the run. But there are a lot of new mechanics to talk about, the first of which being in this room. These moving platforms are actually activated when Madeline dashes, and they move along a set track, as you can see in the background. These red balls are very similar to the green ones, but the only difference is that the green ones only push you the distance of a dash. These red ones will move in one of the 8 set directions until they either come in contact with something or they're dashed out of. And they are also able to be activated quicker by pressing the dash button. Sneaky making it out of Chapter 4 as well now. Going to be entering Mirror Temple behind Acaroline. Not that far behind, really. Going to see about a 50-second lead, I do believe, right now for Acaroline. So yeah, both runners here now. This room is a bit interesting. That Acaroline is in right now, that is. It likes not to dash. You can actually diagonal dash and completely avoid those walls. However, it's a bit risky. If you're too slow or too fast, those blades can cut you off, and the cycle can be completely screwed up. Acaroline taking the safe bet and making it through without problem. And she's now going to be entering the mirror. So here we're going to get introduced to our good friends, the Seekers. This is basically just a tutorial to basically explain what they are, how they move, and what they're going to be doing, which is chasing you. So unlike Oshiro and the Snowballs, these Seekers are basically AI. They track you on a horizontal and vertical plane and basically will hunt you down. They can also readjust themselves after they make their charge, so you're not really safe unless you really know what you're doing. And they can become a bit of a hindrance as well, especially if they become in, or if they get in the wrong positions and you're not used to where they're at in certain rooms. They can also be bounced off of, just like Oshiro and the Snowballs, and they do replenish dashes as well. And as you can see on Acaroline's screen right there, actually manipulating those Seekers, or that Seeker rather, to hit that lock switch. They can hit lock switches for you, and that's going to be something that you're probably going to see a 2 or 3 times here. You're going to see it in this room as well right there. There are some runners with some insane strats for this section, and this last room is a bit finicky. There are a lot of different strats for this room, and some of them can get completely screwed up, like I said, by the Seekers being in the wrong places. Acaroline having no trouble with it, though. And you're going to see Sneaky now entering the unraveling section as well. So Acaroline is about to do one of the really subtle skips in this game, in the speedrun. However, it actually is the largest time save, and that's right there. That reverse jump dash off of that wall, that small wall that's sticking up right there. We call that search skip, and basically in this section, you're supposed to be searching for 2 keys to actually unlock a couple of keyholes and take a red ball across that room. However, by doing that, just that little reverse jump dash in that room, we actually save 3 minutes from going, rather than going and getting the keys. So we're going to see more Seekers here before now Acaroline moving into the Theo section. Now Theo's trapped in this crystal, And the unfortunate thing about Theo is that whenever we're carrying him, we can't actually dash. However, we can throw him or drop him and then dash into him, and in turn, while picking him up, maintain the momentum from the dash we had prior to picking him up. And you're going to see that used a lot. That's basically the name of the game for this segment. The Theo section can be a make or break for a run. Very good stuff so far from acaroline in this section. Basically flawless, to be completely honest. Sneaky in that that long room, missing a key, a lock switch rather. Oh, almost taking a death from that Seeker, but avoiding it narrowly. Now, towards the end here, you're going to see all kinds of different culminations of mechanics, these moving platforms, and the Theo section in general. And then there's this long room at the end. Ooh, interesting. Going to be able to avoid that Seeker. Gonna wait for it to charge. Good move. A couple of neutral wall kicks. Interesting strat there from acaroline. That looked like a bit of improvisation on that side. Making it through that last room. That last room can be very, very interesting. Because it's very long. And if the Seeker does get in the wrong spot, you can take a death and it can be costly there. But acaroline making it through without much issue. So acaroline now entering my favorite chapter in this game, Chapter 6. We might be seeing a cool little skip here on acaroline's side. We'll wait and see if it happens. However, there are some runners who elect not to go for it in races for good reasons. If you're not super comfortable with it, it can be a bit of a pain in the butt. And we are going to see it on acaroline's side. That is a first try leg skip from acaroline. Very impressive. Basically jumping off the corner of the wall there. The spikes in this chapter, their hitboxes are a bit smaller than the sprite. So there is actually a bit of wall sticking out there that we can bounce off of. We can wall bounce off of. And acaroline getting it first try is very impressive. Sneaky making his way through the Theo section here. Almost at the end now. That lead is growing, though, for acaroline now. You can definitely see the skill difference starting to show here in these later chapters. The early game was very, very close, however. Now it's starting to become definitely visible that there are some strats that acaroline are using that are faster than Sneaky's. And that's a lot about, like... That says a lot about this tournament. It's more or less just a difference in skill level. No RNG, nothing ridiculous like that whatsoever. This game is completely skill-based, which is why I believe it's a great speed game. Sneaky actually retrying. I was going to mention that in this room, it's impossible to die unless you retry at the end instead of skipping the cutscene. I've not seen it yet in this tournament, but Sneaky actually just did it. Very unfortunate. That does lose about 10-12 seconds in that room, and depending on how you take it afterwards can lose you up to 15, actually. So moving on to acaroline's side, unfortunately I don't have very much time to talk about much because everything's going by so fast. These bumpers are bumpers. They're the same as a pinball bumper. They bump you in one direction depending on how you come off of them. However, the interesting property about these bumpers is that if you do bounce off of them while facing away from them, like if you're facing away from them when you make impact with them, you're actually going to get an extra boost. No leg skip on Sneaky's side. These feathers as well, they can move in any direction. With the analog stick on a controller is the most optimal way of using them. Actually, the keyboard does just as much justice as an analog stick does, but the D-pad is probably the worst way of using these feathers. They move for a set distance, and you are completely in control of them. Very interesting mechanic. And then another thing that I forgot to mention, these crush blocks. You can see that crush block that acaroline just bounced off of has two blue sides. Those blue sides are the sides that you can dash into and in turn move that crush block in one of those two directions until it makes contact with a wall or a surface of some sort. We're going to see a very, very cool strat using some momentum off of the crush block in this next room that acaroline's going in right before the battle end fight. Not sure if he's going to do it, but we'll see. Very good ravine as well. We saw a couple of intended skips there, developer intended skips, and I don't know, it doesn't really look like it's going to be... Nope, we're not going to see the battle end boost from acaroline, unfortunately. But here we go, the battle end fight. Now, the difference between this and the chase earlier in the game is that she is basically running from us instead of us running from her. Also, get some hey-us in the chat. This is some of the most epic music in the game, in my opinion. I absolutely love this track. So, the difference between the Battle End boss fight and other traditional boss fights in platformers is that in this one, you have to hit her a set amount of times in certain rooms to progress the fight, rather than, you know, her having a health bar or something like that. So there's no way to do this fight faster. You actually do have to go through all the rooms. Which is something I also love about this fight. This is my favorite section of the game, the Battle End fight. Both speedrun rise and casually. Lots of different strats in these rooms. I must say, Caroline really fizzing through this chapter 6 so far. Very impressive so far. Sneaky about to go meet up with Grandma here. And then he'll begin his descent to rock bottom before the fight against Battle-In on that side as well. Ooh, Caroline taking a death in this room, unfortunately. I must probably address this now as well. Battle-In has two different kinds of attacks. One is the laser you see on a Caroline's screen right now, and the other one is actually these fireballs. And the cool, interesting thing about the fireballs is that for a few frames after they're released from Battle-In, they actually don't have a hitbox. So we can zip right through them shortly after they spawn in, after Battle-In throws them at us. So you can see the developer intended shortcuts on Sneaky's side now, making it through with pretty much no problem as Caroline enters the second and final phase of the Battle-In fight now. So this phase basically utilizes these platforms and they move in specific patterns. But overall, it's basically the same deal. You're still hitting her a certain amount of times to progress from room to room. So, will we see a Battle-In boost from Sneaky? It doesn't really look like it's going to be a Battle-In boost. I apologize for the voice crack as well. No Battle-In boost from Sneaky. Actually, that was kind of an abridged Battle-In boost, if you will. Still looked pretty neat. Just a cool little example of what can be done with momentum with the crush blocks, as Sneaky now in the Battle-In fight as well. Sneaky actually in the first couple rooms of the Battle-In fight, as a Caroline in the last one. This last one is very long, can be punishing to take a death in. However, Caroline says to heck with that, makes it through without very much problem whatsoever. Very good Chapter 6 from a Caroline. At the end of the chapter here, you notice that we actually leveled up, got the level up. That basically means we can dash twice now, because by the power of friendship, Madeline and Battle-In made up together. And yeah, now we can dash twice, and that's marked by the color of the color of Madeline's hair. You can see it's pink now instead of red. Pink signifies 2 dashes, red signifies 1, and blue signifies none. The red and blue you've seen throughout the run so far, however, the pink is brand new. Also, 641, I think that was. Very good, Chapter 6, and now we're off to the summit. So the summit is basically just a culmination of all the other chapters. You're going to see this first section is based off of, based mostly off of the chapter we just came out of, which is Reflections. And basically the summit is split into different meters, different sections based on the amount of meters, how high up you are in the mountain. And that's how the chapters are separated throughout this entire one. But this is definitely the longest and the most grueling, nerve-wracking chapter of the run, no doubt. Summit is a make-or-break situation for a lot of runners when it comes to PBing. So an okay summit base there for a Caroline. Sneaky still in the Battle-In fight. So 500 meters, as you can see, largely based off of Forsaken City, the first chapter in the game. as we're introduced to these zippers again. And the overall palette, the blocks, and the textures just look like Chapter 1 did. Oh, I just looked over at Sneaky's screen for a section. They're taking a very unfortunate death at the end of this room. That's punishing. It is a pretty long room for Sneaky to die at the end of. Almost dying again, but somehow avoiding that laser. That was an incredible save. So Caroline in the second to last room, now in the last room of this this Summit 500 meter section. Doing a nice little wall bounce instead of waiting for that zipper to go down and move her back up again. Very good stuff. So Sneaky now almost finishing up the battle and fight here. As a Caroline now in the 1000 meter section, the section based off of Old Site, as you can probably tell. Now, a cool property about these dream blocks is that they can actually be hyper-dashed out of. It's a very tight frame. Ooh, Caroline taking a death there. They can actually be hyper-dashed out of. It's very tight to do so, however, some runners do it. I don't know if we'll see a Caroline do it or not. No hyper dashes out of those blocks. Very clean. Oh, and as I say that, the commentator's curse coming in. I was about to say a very clean 1000 meters from a Caroline. Unfortunately, I opened my big mouth, and that caused a death, but alas, it happens. Sneaky fizzing through the last room now of the battle and fight, avoiding the death at the end there, and making it through rather nicely as well. So he's going to get his second dash and move into the summit as well. So again, as I said, the skill cap between these runners is a bit different. So the lead did get bigger as a Caroline moved through. Chapter 5 and 6, I would say, were probably the two that separated them the most. It's not impossible for Sneaky to win this race, however, it's very unlikely now. So Sneaky finishing up Chapter 6 now, moving into the summit as a Caroline, finishing up that 1500 meter section, which is, of course, based off of the place where all runs go to die, as I said. So yeah, we see about a 3-minute and 40-second difference now between these two runners. Actually, taking into account the in-game timer being a bit unsynced between the two runners, it's about a 3-minute and 25-second difference. So this room is interesting that a Caroline's in right now in the 2000 meter section, which is based off of Chapter 4. The snowball can be a bit annoying in that room. A Caroline here now going to go for what we call auto-scroller skip. Oh, unfortunately, using that extended hyper, but not keeping the dash, so we'll have to take a death there. Basically using an extended hyper to keep both dashes there, completely avoids taking the block all the way across, and then a nicely timed wall bounce. Very impressive skip. It's harder than it looks, I must say. So Sneaky into the 500 meter section now of the summit as well. Let's see how he does making it through there. As a Caroline now entering... Sorry, I always think that this is the last room of the chapter, or of the segment for some reason. This is the last room of 2000 meters. The last room of all of these are pretty long. I wouldn't say, like, extremely long, but long enough that if you take a death at the end of them, it can be very costly. And it has happened before to me, and I'm sure a lot of other runners, instead of skipping the cutscene after making it through one of those segments, actually retrying can be killer. Oh, Sneaky, as I said that, taking a death there in that room, that's a pretty decent time loss. As acaroline taking a different strat than what I'm used to seeing right there. Going for this key skip where we're going to see a little bit of a little wall kick here off of the corner there of those right side spikes. Having a bit of trouble with it though. There we go, gets it after a little bit. Wasted a little bit of time there, but it's nothing crazy. And basically that's the same thing as leg skip, except we're not wall bouncing, we're just wall kicking. Those spikes hitboxes are a lot smaller than they look. I wouldn't say a lot smaller, just marginally smaller, but enough to do some stuff like that. So now if you watch speedruns of this game, you know what's coming up. And acaroline's gonna go for it. Gonna get the first door, no problem. Going for the second one, gets it no problem. First try door skip from acaroline. Let's get some hype in the chat for that. Very impressive. But takes a death in the last room here of 2,500 meters. Still very impressive getting door skip. For those who don't know, door skip is basically the meme of this run, I would say. It only saves about a second or a second and a half compared to the actual normal strat and the intended way of doing that room. Wow, acaroline almost saved that. That's an unfortunate death there. That does waste about 15 seconds, I would say. Because of how little time saved door skip is, that's basically why it started to become a joke. So it looks like acaroline's PB is probably going to head out here. It's not going to be viable, but entering the 3,000 meter section, we're going to see some different, we're going to see some mechanics we've already seen, however they're going to be used differently. And to kick things off here, you're going to be seeing a downdraft section. So basically the wind is pushing us down rather than being horizontal. It's pushing us in a vertical direction this time, basically intensifying gravity and making Madeline fall quicker. It's completely completely opinionated of whether the downdraft section or the updraft section is harder. The updraft section is what follows this, and it's basically, instead of intensifying gravity, it kind of lifts it a bit. Kind of like zero gravity, if you will. But this final climb, you can see these checkpoints, they replace room transitions. So these are really just one huge room with some checkpoints in them. These flags are numbered from 30 to 1. Also, feel free to count along as our runners hit these flags. You see acaroline getting on a flag 19 and then 18 here. So acaroline now in that updraft section. As Sneaky making it through, going to auto-scroller skip now. Will Sneaky go for auto-scroller skip is the question. Seems that way. Sneaky goes for it, hits the corner. Oh, unfortunately slips off that block. There you go. Sneaky getting that auto-scroller skip. acaroline trying to do a neutral jump there to skip that little section. Instead, has to do it the intended way rather than skipping those spikes and skipping that refresh crystal. Doesn't grab flag 10. Skips over flag 10, but gets to flag 9 safely regardless with ease. So it's looking like it's going to be a high 36 or a very, very low 37 here for acaroline. Probably a high 36, I would say. Sneaky finishing up 2,000 meters now, about to enter 2,500. I must say, this has been a very good race so far. So definitely give some applause to these runners when this run finishes, and definitely follow them on their channels. Oh, Sneaky with an accidental corner boost there. Unfortunately getting thrusted into those spikes. Very unfortunate death. Acaroline now on the home stretch, touching up on flag 2 here. So Acaroline will be the winner of this race. GG's to Acaroline, very, very good stuff. And yeah, it's going to be a high 37, or high 36 rather, I do believe. Probably about a 36.53, or 56, sorry. It's actually going to be a 36.55. Acaroline is your winner. Very well done. And now Sneaky. We turn our attention to you, my friend. It's time to finish this up. Will we see a door skip from Sneaky, is the question. This should be very, very interesting. But yeah, GG's to Acaroline, 24 deaths, 36.55 final time, very good stuff. We are going to see an attempted door skip. Unfortunately, Sneaky's going to have to take the retry there. Going to try it again, gets the first door. Going for the second door. Gets it, second try. Both runners getting door skip here. Now that basically just validates this entire race. This is officially a valid race. But yeah, let's get some hype in the chat for Sneaky finishing off this run now. On the final climb. I'd be a lot more hyped up if my if I was allowed to be loud right now, but it's a bit late where I am right now, so very happy to be doing commentary for an entertaining race like this, though. So Sneaky in the final climb as well now, entering the downdraft section of 3,000 meters. Count down those flags. Let's go. I think that was a skip of flag 24 there. Oh, and it's gonna cost him. Unfortunate. That can happen. Skips it again, though. Elects not to get it. And this time manages to make it up just fine to flag 23. So Sneaky, unfortunately, the PB is not going to be viable either. Sneaky with, I think it was a 38 or a 39 minute time. But yeah, this is looking like probably either a very, very high 40 or a low 41, or mid 41 actually. Depending on how quickly he's able to make it through this final section. Good save there as well, but unfortunately the commentator's curse coming in. For each save made, a death will occur. Especially when a commentator mentions it. Making it through this updraft section with absolute ease. Flag 13, the unlucky number. Able to get through without a death. Very good stuff. That one is renowned for killing people. Gets that wall kick. Avoiding going and getting that refresh crystal, and in turn just jumping right over those spikes. Very nice. Elects not to grab flag 10. Wow, very close. That had to be scary. That made my heart skip a beat, I know that much. Sneaky fizzing through this final section here of the updraft. Unfortunately, taking a death there on flag 4. on flag 3 now. Making it through without problem. Flag 2. Going for that wall bounce. Unfortunately, gonna have to go back down and get that refresh crystal again, though. And it does look like it's going to be a mid 41 for Sneaky. GG's to Sneaky. And I must say, what an entertaining race this was. Very well done by both of our runners here. And that is it. Sneaky's final time, a 41:30.126. Very, very good stuff. So yeah, GG's to both of our runners here. A very entertaining race, to say the least. So we might see our one of our two runners or both of our runners come in here for a quick interview before we sign things off here. We'll wait and see. Does look like Sneaky is here. So yeah, let's get Sneaky in here. Alright, so I'm joined now by the second place runner in this race. That's Sneaky. GG's. Very good race.
Hello, friend. GG.
I must say that for the longest time, this race was very close. Actually,
Really?
the early game was the early game was very, very close, and I think the chapter 5 and 6 were the two that made the difference for sure.
I had such a bad chapter 6.
I noticed there were a few deaths there that were very unfortunate, especially a couple in the battle and fight that I saw that really sucked.
I think
but I made it.
The start, I just like...
Yeah.
Ugh.
It happens to the best of us for sure, no doubt.
Yeah, it's fine.
But still, it was a pretty consistent race overall, I must say. I think the one thing that really made the difference, not only some of the strats, but definitely the deaths. But I mean, that's, again, it happens in speedrunning in general. Especially with a difference in skill cap in this tournament. It's more or less a pure skill-based tournament rather than, you know, tossing any RNG in there, which is what I love about this game and what I love about this tournament in general. But I did see a few really good segments in there from you. For sure. Chapter 3 was pretty good, and your chapter 2 was pretty good as well. Despite I think you took a death in the last room of the battle and chase. I don't remember, but I think acaroline did too.
Yeah,
so I think that's what
getting
evened
the
it
keys. I got a pretty bad death.
Yeah, it was definitely, it stayed even though for a while. I mean, acaroline had a bit of an edge, like maybe a 20-second lead, but the thing is about like races like this is that's still considered close because one death in one of the longer rooms can definitely, you know, change the entire structure of the race when it comes to especially in chapter 3. There are some very long rooms in chapter 3. But very good stuff regardless. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get acaroline in here for an interview. But 1 out of 2 is still good. But yeah, I mean, just overall thoughts on the race?
I'm just... It went alright. I'm disappointed in the death count, because there are a lot of things I definitely practiced that went totally wrong. And a lot of easy things. I feel like I capitalized on a lot of the harder things, and then the easy things just kind of went out the window. That's kind of my feelings on it.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, and definitely being, you know, restreamed on Speed Gaming, having it be a tournament race, having it be a race in general, all those things play in to know, you know, the mindset that you have going into the run entirely. So But yeah, overall, GG's. It was very good stuff. And I mean, I can definitely see. What is your PB again? Sorry.
I have a 3908.
Yeah, I can definitely see just that if you get that death count down, I'm sorry, a little bit, then I could definitely see that PB happening.
Yeah, that's
And
my.
definitely. I mean, it'd be even cooler to get into the tournament, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even in my first my first race, I got a 1 second PB, which was interesting to say the least.
1 second PB.
Yeah, there was a nice death on Flag 2 also that played into it.
It sucks. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, and the summit nerves too,
Yeah.
on top of everything else, definitely come into play too. But yeah, GG's.
Yeah.
So
GG.
I think with that, we'll sign things off. Make sure you follow the runners. Make sure you follow all 6 of the Speed Gaming channels. There's actually a 24 Maverick Mega Man X race entering its final game on SG3 right now. If you guys want to head over there, if you guys are interested. But other than that, I think that's it for Speed Gaming overall. And you can definitely get hyped. There's more to come throughout the week, not only just for Celeste, but for all kinds of different speedruns. You can actually scroll down and check out all the different tournaments and everything that Speed Gaming is restreaming and hosting. Definitely very, very neat, and there are a lot of games here that you should definitely check out, Celeste being just one of a variety of different games that are very entertaining to watch here. So yeah, with that, we'll sign it off. I'm GD Tog, and this was another Celeste Any Percent tournament race between acaroline and SNeaky. acaroline coming out on top. Lots of fun to watch. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and have a good night.